Welcome back to Stoa, the podcast. I was taking a walk with my mom this morning, and I was telling her about my newly found insight when it comes to our preferences and our desires and our intention to, actually, it's more than an intention. Typically, it's an addiction to control situation and people and things. I'd like to talk about that because whenever you're serious about your spiritual growth, the spiritual path, true spirituality will always go there and teach you what you need to know about your desires, your preferences, and your need to control. And it's not that they're not welcome, it's not that they're not needed, but one has to be very vigilant, very careful about how they go and touch and deal and play with those things. So, what's the starting point? Well, maybe the recognition that we all want things. We all want to control what should happen in a given situation, or how our kids should act, how our friends and employees and spouse and whatnot should be around us. And this, I really call it an addiction, because when you look at it from hindsight with great distance and perspective, we can certainly see that we are so much attached to this desire to control things. It's omnipresent in so many aspects of our lives. And so we do that, and if we're being real and honest here, we do that because doing the opposite is much more uncomfortable. It's easier to try to control things and people as an event than not trying to do that and living with not the outcome of whatever's going to happen, but living with what's happening inside of us. Like, let's say you're out with the family and you're in a public place, and one of your kids starts to do something silly, something that doesn't have its place, but they're kids. What do they know? They need to be taught. So they're doing that, and from your adult mind, you're looking at this and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? What do you think you're doing? This is not something that should be done. And then you go about correcting, educating, informing, whatever path you choose. You try to rectify the situation. Let's say you don't do that. You don't go and do whatever you would do in such situation. And you just sit back and observe what's going to happen and also what's going on inside. Well, you'll be amazed most of the time to see that, well, first it's going to stop. Whatever is happening is not going to keep going for a long time because everything passes. And then most interestingly, you're going to look inside and you're going to see that you go crazy over this thing. Your impulsion to touch it and to do something and to say something and to interact with the moment externally is so strong. It's screaming, because it's so uncomfortable inside. Whether it's uncomfortable because of the judgment of others, people are looking at you and you don't like that. You think you you're an extra, terrestrial person or family and you're being judged. Whether because you're like, oh my gosh, I couldn't do that as a kid. There's no way you're going to do that as my kid. Whether you're thinking, uh, I've been corrected or worst when I was young for other things that are not as important as this one or this one in particular. And then there's a pattern or a conditioning that kicks in and that overpowers you, and then you lead with that. This is all happening inside if you take a moment and you observe it. And this pull is so strong that typically it will lead us into action. It will lead us into trying to control what should be happening outside so that we feel good inside. And use this sentence and apply it for everything in your life, and it also works very well. It is our predicament. We are unable to just step back, relax, and notice. In any given situation, please, I beg you, observe how you're doing inside and what you're attempting to do, and you'll see that you're crazy. We're all crazy. We're all trying to manipulate and control and have our own way so that we don't feel bad or uncomfortable inside. And like I said, this could be coming from past experiences, patterns, conditioning. It has to be, because we are the sum of our learned experiences, obviously. But the moment we realize that, we come to see that this is how we run our lives. And it's tiring, isn't it? To always be trying to patch and correct and do and touch and manipulate and control so that we have our way or what we want or what we wish or what should happen, because it feels so damn good if it happens like that. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't feel good if it doesn't happen like we want to. This is tiring. This is exhausting. No kidding that people are so tired, It's not because of late hours or late snack or the Netflix that you're tired. It's because you're spending so much energy trying to control what's happening outside. It's sorry, I swear. It's unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. Let's put it this way. And I was so caught up in this for my whole life, to be honest. And I even have some relapse sometimes these days, but I'm very, very, very quick at spotting them, and it takes seconds for me to come back and get rid of it, thankfully, because I've worked with myself enough to be aware, to remain seated in my consciousness that I can see what's happening right now. And you can do that too. And I want to help you get there. But first, you got to be honest with yourself and see what it is for what it is. You are creating a mess because you're attempting to control and manipulate and have your way most of the time, if it's not all the time. This lesson came to me again lately, so strikingly that I'm going to share it here. Yeah, I'm having fun with my practice. I love it to death. Something magical is happening every time I press record. I never know what I'm going to say. I just press record and I let it rip, and typically it comes out all right, so I hear. And when I coach, it's the same thing. Something magical happens. I just have it in me, or so it seems. Yeah. Anyways, I love my practice. I love what I do. And yet, for the sake of my family and the upcoming months, I'm going to have to make a shift and do something else on the side to provide for my family. And there's nothing wrong with that. Would be a time in the past where I would have struggled with this. I don't anymore. I just allow myself to be led what I should be led and do what needs to be done and serve. And that's it. But I've realized there was still something a little bit dormant. That's many months ago. And it wasn't about the insecurity, financially speaking, I mean. But there was a fear inside of me that was saying, how are you going to bring that money in? And you see, what I mean by that is I've suffered for a long time in my life in regards of the jobs that I had. Whether they were sales rep jobs or executive jobs that I had, there was something that I was always after. It seemed like I was never in the right seat, or I wasn't doing something that I was highly passionate about. And I got caught up in this narrative for so long that it made me suffer. Looking back now, I would have kept maybe one or two of those jobs for sure because of the business, the culture, the industry, and whatnot. I kind of liked it. I loved it, actually. But, what is the past is the past. And I'm here now doing something even greater. So that's perfect. Now, yet, looking forward, knowing that I'll have to step back into the workforce as an employee to support my family, there was this residue of fear that I could notice as far as how am I going to bring that money in? And I had to work with that to realize that I was still attached to some sort of desire or preferences when it comes to the work that I will do during a living. And it was life-changing for me to recognize this and work with it because it allowed me to open up all of the perspectives without any fear of judgment. Am I going to like it or not? Will I be able to do it or not? Or any sorts of questions that can come with a career opening or shift or experiencing something new. But the message here is being attached to a preferences or desire is what kills you, is what makes you suffer. For a long time, I misinterpreted that. Apparently in the 60s or the 70s, Ram Dass, the great spiritual teacher, friend of Michael Challen, dear friend of Michael Challen, was apparently distributing a little booklet that I have home here that I've read many, many times. It's called A Third Zen Patriarch. It's a very short Zen text, as they usually do them. Short, concise, to the point, and of great wisdom. The first line I taught or remembered was the following: their great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. And at the beginning, when I read that years and years ago, I was tormented. I even went to my coach Alan and said, "Look, Alan, what's this here? I'm very much perplexed, and my ego is fighting this so hard. And I was reading Buddhism at that time, also Buddhism, Zen, same root. And that reminded me of the Buddha's Noble Truth. Four Noble Truth. First one being life is suffering. Second one being life is suffering because of your desires. So now I'm remembering the third Zen patriarch, the Great Way, meaning enlightenment, is not difficult for those who have no preferences, I'm saying to myself. So I've been on a quest for a couple of years to have no preferences, which is not bad in one way, but that's not what the text said, after all. When I read it again, it said the following: the Great Way is not difficult for those who are not attached to their preferences or desires. Same thing. So it doesn't mean that you don't have to have preferences, but they do mean that you can't be attached to them. And that's a universal truth. Apply it to work, apply it to your personal life, apply it to your relationships, apply it to your family, your kids, your anything. Universal truth is universal truth. It transcends everything. And I have shivers when I say that. It is the truth. You cannot go deeper than that. It is what it is. I had one grandfather left, and he passed away a couple of weeks ago. I'll do a podcast on that topic and death, and specifically because I have a lot to say in that regards. But when it comes to preferences, my mom shared something that connects to this idea so powerfully that I said to myself, I need to share it here. He was healed for the last 20 years of his life. And it wasn't easy on him. He was an active man all of his life, in business all of his life, sporty. And then you get to retirement and your health trickles down, and he got imputed, cut off his arm. Overall health was not good. He ended up in a wheelchair, couldn't walk, couldn't talk mostly anymore, couldn't hear anything. Health-wise was not great. The quality of life was poor. Hence, people that met us, that knew him, said, what a deliverance, or it's a blessing that he's gone now, he's not suffering anymore, etc. But I can partay with some of that. But what my family was saying is, that's not totally true, because it wasn't that's them speaking, not him. Obviously, I cannot ask my grandpa, he's gone, but my family saying it wasn't a deliverance for him to be gone, since he still had something to cherish and hold on to, which was his wife, my grandmother. And that reminded me, as beautiful as that looks, and as beautiful as this is true, if your happiness, if your peace, your inner peace, your harmony hinges on something external other than yourself, you haven't gone deep enough yet. Because it is not true. And I know, because I went that deep. It is not true that your spouse, your kids, your family members, your job, your possessions, your bank account, or whatnot will give you access to the river of joy. I want to cry as I say this. The river of joy that flows through you. Thank you, God. Ah, jeez. When you access that bliss, that joy, which you already have within you, you don't need to find it, but you certainly need to get out of the way and cleanse yourself enough so that you can access it. When you access that, you realize that nothing external is close to be that good. As much as I love my spouse, as much as I love my kids, and as much as I love my family, the joy that runs through me has nothing to do with them. They certainly contribute to my smile and my happiness and my joy and whatnot. But you can go deeper, much deeper. And that can never leave you. Once you touch that, there's no coming back. There's no more desires and preferences that you wish to cling to, that you wish to attach to, because you know better. There's no more fear. It falls naturally on its own. It still might visit you, but you know better. You don't side with it. You don't spend time with it. And that's what realizing that you don't have any control helps you with. It helps you to let go of your ego. It helps you to cleanse inside. It gives you the willpower to keep going, to want to go deeper, to want to be so pure, so clean, so beautiful inside that you always connect to that holy rush of energy that is there. And that's the gift that we all have. It is there. It is imbued in you, in who you are. But you got to find out who that is. And we've talked at length about that in the Vortex of the Ego, so I'm not going to go over that again. But you got to let pieces fall off. You got to let those false identity fall, the veil fall down. The veil, the false identity, the little self, the small self, all different terms that are out there in the spiritual literature and text and personal growth stuff. They all mean the same thing. It helps you to let go of that. And then control becomes not something that you do because you don't control anything. That's the truth. That's not what they teach you. They tell you that you should meditate and visualize and attract to yourself what you want, the jobs and the money and the relationships and whatnot. Part of it is true, but we're still in primary school when you deal with that. If you're serious about your spiritual growth, you got to go beyond that stuff. It becomes so irrelevant. It becomes so irrelevant. Who cares? What are we? We're nothing. We're a speck of dust in a universe that we cannot even comprehend. how far and how big and how deep and how infinite it is. How can we? We're brilliant. I mean, we send people to the moon for F's sake. So we're brilliant. But how can the mind comprehend infinity and beyond? Only Buzz Lightyear can do that. Life has been unfolding for billions of years. And it will continue to do that without me and without you. So what do you control? Nothing. It is just unfolding because of the law of cause and effect and the forces of nature. It will do what it will do. And you're the dancer. If you can start to grasp this and take it into your heart and mind and look at it for what it is, half of the way is done. Half of the way is done. But I promise you this, you will come back screaming, saying, so what do I do next? Your desire to do something about life will inevitably ask you to raise that question. Okay, so all right, Max, I don't have any control. Okay, I can play with that. I can see that for what it is. But then what am I supposed to do? What do I do? You know? And then people will tell you, well, you got to find your ikigai. People don't know what ikigai is, first and foremost. They think it's this four circles and the intersection of the nexus point and whatnot. That's a Spanish thing. It was created by a Spanish guy, and it's nothing Japanese, and it's not ikigai. But okay, let's play with that. So, yeah, well, I'll find what I'm good at and how I can contribute to the world and how I can get paid for and what are my passions. And that's what I'll do. Or I'll use the agile concept from Jim Collins. Or I'll try to, find my passion and do what I'm passionate about, because every day of my life shouldn't be wasted if I'm not passionate about what I do. All right, so, okay, you'll play with that a little bit. And then you'll realize that your dharma doesn't have anything to do with all these things. And by the way, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do something you're passionate about. That's wonderful. But how about you're passionate about everything, and you also do something you're passionate about? Let's reverse that. Let's reverse the process. Make it so beautiful, so clean inside, that whatever you do is fine. Bonus points if you like it and you're passionate about. Bonus point if you contribute in a bigger way, the way that you envision to the world should be. But in the end, your dharma, what is being asked of you, it doesn't have to do with your career. It doesn't have to do with your passions. It doesn't have to do with the ikigai. It doesn't have to do with how you contribute to the world. As a matter of fact, yes, it does, but it does in every moment. Every moment that passes by is your dharma. Can you show up and give yourself to this moment that is presenting itself to you? It might be in your work, it might be at home, it might be in your personal life. Can you honor and respect the moment that is showing up right in front of you right this moment now, which is be here now that Ram Dass talked about all those years, Can you play with this without desires or preferences or trying to control? In the spiritual text in the great scriptures, they often use the analogy of the pond and the mirror, lake pond. You bring yourself to the edge of a pond or a lake, and it's a mirror. It's has no waves, it has no ripples. It's crystal clear. You can see your reflection so beautifully. And then to use this analogy to say that if you play with it, it's going to create ripples. Or if, say, leaves fall down, the leaves fall down in the pond, and then if suddenly it creates ripples and you don't see yourself as well. Well, are you going to put your hands in there and try to calm the water so you can see yourself again? Or are you going to wait it out? Well, that's exactly it. Of course, you're not going to put your hands in there to try to, calm the water and so you can see your reflection again. That's nonsense. It's just going to create more ripples. Well, that's what we do with our lives. Something shows up, something happens, and instead of being there, present, and doing our best with what is presenting itself before us, the tantrum from the kid, the project at work, the traffic going back home that is eternal, the person yesterday when I was walking on a bike path, or on a walking path, that bike beside us, and the lady said, "Sir, the bike path is not here; it's over there." And he said, "Fuck off, lady. Are you gonna be upset and play with that and make yourself suffer or over what a jerk said?" Basically, well, yeah, we do that. We do that with our colleagues. We do that with our families, with our kids, with our spouse. We do that with ourselves in our own mind. Gosh, we are so good at being our worst own enemy. The self narrative is explicitly good. So we're sticking our hands in the pond trying to deal with the waves. No. Back off. Sit down. Relax. Let the ripples go away. And everything comes back to its nature, to its equanimity, to the Tao. That's what the Tao is. Nature's balance. Who am I to play with nature's balance? And when I got that, I burst out crying like a baby because I understood right there and then that how audacious was I all those years, trying to control and manipulate and have my own way. I can trust God. I can trust life. I can trust the universe. I'm going to do a better job. Gee, that's that's a very beautiful ego trip right there. And I was part of it. I was right in there. I was right there. And so are you. And you don't have to be. You don't have to be, because as soon as you let things flow through you as they should, without having to touch because of your own fears and your ego and whatnot, when you do that, doesn't mean you don't do anything. But when you don't come from that space, you allow life to flow as it should. And you just flow with it. You dance with it. And you're free. My master once said that when you do that with all of the people in your life, with your work, with all the dollars you have in your bank account, with all your possessions, when you get them, when you do that, when you surround yourself that way, with peoples and things and whatnot, without having to touch and manipulate and control and desire and have preferences and whatnot. You're free. Free. And what's more beautiful than that? Being at peace, free, and in love with the whole process. The whole process. Whether it looks pretty or it doesn't. Because sometimes it doesn't. You know, life is beautiful, but sometimes it's tough. Sometimes things are happening that are tough. And there's yet a beauty in that. There's yet a beauty in that when you're able to see it from the perspective we've been talking about. To honor and respect it for what it is. And to see it as another experience, because it is another experience that you can cherish and learn from. Nothing goes in vain. Nothing. So friends, if you do that with your work, if you do that with your relationship, first with yourself and then others, if you do that with every moment that passes by, you work with it. You see it for what it is. You honor it. You respect it. You work with yourself to cleanse whatever is blocking inside, whatever is scratching inside. Then you raise yourself up. You raise the moment up. And if it helps, offer it to God. Give it to God. Because it's all God's play anyways. It is. You raise it up. You give it up. You do your best. And that's all you can do. That's all you can do. And that's enough. Don't ever doubt that. If you do your best at every second, every moment, you've done what you could do. Because if you could have done better, you would have done it. So doing our best is fine. So we've started talking about control and preferences and desires and how it poisons us, really. It poisons us because we cling to what we want to see, what we want, our preferences and our desires. Doesn't mean that we don't have them, but the moment we cling, the moment we attach ourselves to them, the moment we say this or that, if that happens, will bring me joy, or will bring me happiness, or will help me out, or will make my life so much more beautiful. Or if I could get this job, this dream job, I would be so done. Everything would be perfect. Oh, if I could do this trip, I wouldn't have to travel anywhere else in my whole life. Or if I could have this house, my family would be so happy and better off. Or if I could have the backyard, the kid could play there, that would be so much beautiful than my condo. Or if I could have this boyfriend or that boyfriend with X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, F, L, G criterias, I would be so much in love. Nonsense. We're crazy like that. No, you don't need any. You don't need any of that. Good on you if it happens and if you have it. But those preferences and desires, if you cling to them and you give your power away to them, they will run your life. And you can forget about nirvana. You can forget about can't forget about being at ease, at peace, and in love, and in harmony with life at any given moment. If you do that, you just screw the process. And I know for a fact, trust me, I've been on my knees wishing I wasn't here anymore because I didn't have what I wanted. And that's not how we're meant to spend our life. Let's not become our worst own enemies. Let's be very careful about those desires and preferences. It's okay to have them, but don't attach, don't cling to them. Be okay with whatever unfolds. Don't try to control everything. Because you don't, anyways. And just do your best at every moment. If you do that, you're walking a very high spiritual path. Very, very, very high. And you're just gonna start raising and going higher and higher and higher and deeper. And your life would change. Your life would change with it for the better, and you will change the life of other people too. All right. Thank you. Work with yourself, guys. You can do this. You can do this. Cheers. See you next time. Thank you.